Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard. My name is Filipi Pires. I'm so glad to be here to talk to you. And today we're going to talk about discovering CNC and malicious PDF using some techniques like, disobfuscations, encoding, and others techniques that we can see during this workshop, during this conversation, right? So let me introduce myself. So it doesn't matter who am I, but okay, anyway, I need to present some contact for me in the social medias, right? So I have this web page, and I will show you here. I have my virtual machine here. So if you'd like to open your virtual machine to to practice with me together, so we can practice together during this workshop, during this conversation, right? So I have here this simple Kali Linux, so you can use it Arcane Linux or another Linux distribution. It's for you can use it whatever you prefer, right? So this is my homepage. It's very simple web page, statistical web page. Here's information about me, and here's some open source projects that I have been participating, and some of this project is very interesting because it's related to a security, right? So here's it's another related to DevOps and to help developers using this kind of projects using, for example, in a mobile project and web applications and whatever. Here's it's another difference works with different cycles and something like that, right? So here some presentations, some talks that I did, that I made in some events. Probably in the future, this workshop will be here in this website. And here, if you'd like to see some articles about not about me, but about some testing that I made, that I did, or whatever. So here's some articles that was published, right? So let's return my presentations. Again, I have been, I used a lot Twitter and GitHub and LinkedIn. This is the main social medias that I have been working, right? So I have been working at security research and security advocate at Sup Innovation. It's a Brazilian company, and I'm advocating from this awesome project, Hack is Not a Crime, because I would like to talk more about this for you. It's a very good project initiative actually, and the idea is to explain more about the people about this thing and this concept, right? Because hacking, it's really not a crime. It's a life cycle, not life cycle. Sorry, it's a lifestyle, right? It's a creative mind. When you see some software, when you work with, discover something, and this is the focus is about this project, right? So I am a part of the staff team of the DCG 5511 in São Paulo here in Brazil. By the way, I am talking here from São Paulo. In my small office here, as you can see behind me, is my balcony. I have here some apartment buildings behind me. And yes, I am security research and instructor about the Portuguese courses in the Hacker Security. It's a Brazilian company. And I'm instructor and the writer and reviewer for the 3 magazine. And I have one course about the malware hunting. Right, guys? So let's talk about our summary today. First of all, I'd like to explain more details, just a concept actually about the what is threat. And after that, I'll explain more about the malware analysis, the first steps. And I will talk about, in the end of this workshop, about the structure of the PDF. And I will explain about the demo. And I will open to you to answer some questions, right? So again, if you'd like to open your virtual machine during this conversation, oh my goodness, during this conversation, it was pretty cool, right? So what is threat? First of all, it's just a concept according to this ISO. It's not my definitions, right? It's a definition for this ISO. Threat is defined as a potential potential cause of an incident, right? So maybe it may cause harm to the system or organizations, but it means what, Felipe, exactly? It's a kind of software attacks, or maybe a theft of intellectual property, or maybe identity theft, right? It's very common. And sabotage, and information distortions are example of the information security threats. It means all those things, it is threat, right? So everything is related to a software, right? So when you build something like some applications, some apps, for them to use in an iOS or Android, it's a software, right? And if you have some hardware, probably you have some a layer of the firmware or some application behind and a software. If you have an appliance, you have a software there. It means everything it's related to a software. So when you have some software attack, it is a threat, right? So and of course, when you produce something, when you is a software house, for example, and you have some theft, intellectual property or identity theft, is related to a threat. So all those three is threat. Why I need to understand about that, Filipi? Because when you see about that, you need to understand when you receive some software or some artifact, you need to understand if this software it was malicious or not. In this case, this is the first step, right? So the identification step. It's a simple life cycle. Of course, it's just one opinion, and I see this good life cycle from a friend, a Brazilian friend, right? So and this step is very important because you can decide, not decide, you need to understand if this artifact or this symbol, right, is malicious or not. In this case, probably if is malicious, you have a malware or maldoc. It means malware, it's a software malicious, and maldoc, it's obviously malicious document. And after the identification step, you can choose what the best strategy or method to apply in this analysis. You can define if you will use in a statistical analysis, right, or dynamic analysis. And after that, you can produce something very interesting that usually the manager and the coordinators and tech leads like a lot, right? It means it's a report because you can present that with your leader, right? Because when you made some analysis, you can produce this report. So after this report, when your manager or your boss has this report on the table, you can do another actions. What is the next step? You can improve your defenses mechanism because if you understand what is the real path about this artifact, you can improve your defenses mechanism, right? Because if, for example, this malware bypass some security sensor that you have, you can make some adjustments in the settings or something like that, right? So if you have a big company, or maybe if you have a small company, it's not a problem. You can try, to build this awesome idea, this cyber threat intelligence, right? Because you can use many different tools to automate this process to generate intelligence, against threat. That is the point here. And of course, you need to strengthening cyber resilience in your team, in your environment, because the threats are changing all the time. So this is a simple life cycle about the malware analysis. The simple, of course, is not only the only module. You can use another different. It's not a problem, but it's just one simple idea for you, right? So let's explain more about the statistical analysis. It's very simple. Usually we begin our exploration, right, of malware analysis with the statistical analysis. It is often the first step in malware studies. Why? Because the statistical analysis describe usually the process of analyzing a program code, right? Or maybe a structure to determine its functions. For example, you have some code, and if this code has some library, and for example, some library calls some function inside your system operations, right? So the program itself doesn't run at this time, and of course, depending of what the program you are using, right? So this makes the parsing process more, safe because we aren't actually executing it, right? So it means doesn't run at this time because of this. Usually is the first step in a malware study, or using for a malware analysts, right? So when you explain for a dynamic analysis, for the other hand, is different. It's based solely or only on behavior. It means, and in the interaction that malware has when it's executed or malloc or malware is used, also known like runtime analysis. You see, it's different because one of these tests or this analysis you use it in the runtime, and another it doesn't run at time. It's different, right? It's very simple explanation, right? Because it's very clear, and it's not. I don't need to explain more deeply because it's a simple definition. One of these you execute the malware and you see the behavior, and the other you don't execute the malware. You need to see the code, the structure, and and understand how this malware or maldoc or sample works, right? So it can be easily automated. There are sites today that already perform analysis with the malicious artifact using, the simple concept called sandbox. Or maybe when you is performing this simple in web application scanning, and actually it's antivirus scanning, like VirusTotal. VirusTotal, it's antivirus scanning. When you put some sample inside or URL inside of the VirusTotal and you execute this, and of course you have many engines provide for many different security vendors inside of this VirusTotal. It's an antivirus scanning, right? So this is when you talk about the automated process or a dynamic analysis. It's kind of dynamic analysis, right? But it's very common when you use this kind of concept sandbox, when you have the virtual machine with many engines, and you can put this malware inside of this virtual machine and then execute themselves, and you can see and analyze the behavior, right? But of course, in both of these analyses, we need to understand about this basis. It's very important during this conversation. You need to understand about those bases. It is very important, right, guys? So, okay, before to talk about the physical logical analysis, we need to understand about these bases that I am talking, right? So let's see here about the identification step. Do you remember the life cycle? This is the first step. So if you have now a virtual machine, you can open your terminal. When you're bash, you can execute these commands with me. So first of all, let's see here. Let's open the simple the zoo. Do you know this repository? The zoo GitHub. You can write in this way. Click enter, and after that you have here the here I think it's good. The zoo repository of live malwares for your whatever. Okay, you have here, let's see, live malware repository, right? So it's a project created to make the possibility of malware analysis open and available to the public. So pay attention here, guys, because all those malwares, it is a real, right? It's not a fake malware. So pay attention here when you manipulate this different malwares. You can execute all those malwares inside your environment, but it's not necessary for now, right? But you can download after that. It's not a problem. And of course, remember, you need to make some settings in your network environment, isolate your virtual machine. It's very important to understand about that, right? So if you have some question, you can write me, in a GitHub, or you can send me a message by, a Twitter, on LinkedIn, wherever. You can send me a message if you need this, understand about these configurations in your network, right? So you can click here in malwares, and after that you can click in binaries, right? And after that, boom, you have here the awesome many different malwares, right? And Android, rat, and different attempts and bot, different samples, right? Not samples. In this case, it's a real malware, right? A BitTorLocker, it's a ransomware. And let's see here, the equation group, it's an APT group. I don't know if you know, but it's an APT group. It's a sample, of course, of these malwares. Let's see another here, Linux, Chapros, encoder. As you can see here, it's a ELF. It's a different of the PE, portable executable. In this case, it's for a Linux platform. And here to AOS, in this case, it's Metro malwares, right? It's a Mac OS. And let's see here, oh, nice. many ransomwares to manipulate. I know, again, be careful to this ransomware because it's totally real. So let's see here, another Trojan. I don't know if you are hearing, but I have a truck here next to my apartment now, and the guy probably talking some, promotions like that, or whatever. I'm sorry for that, guys, but this is the pandemic. It's a new real life, unfortunately. And but we have here another difference. Take a look at this Win3 APT 28, 2032, and another different. Right, you can download whatever you want, right? So let's see another here, another very interesting repository. Let's just write in the Google Malware Bazaar here and click enter. And after that, you have here, let's see, Malware Bazaar, Malware Sample Exchange. Click here. And after that, you have here the Malware Bazaar by Abuse CH. You can click here in Malware Bazaar database and take a look where I'm seeing here another awesome project inside our environment, not in our environment, in the it's a repository, right? You can see many different malwares here. Again, be careful because here you have many uh, malware, and of course you can try during your, tests, your improvement, your knowledge. You have here an PE executable. You have here, it's a document, right? XLS, and here you have a doc and zip. You can download many different. Let's see another here. If you have here a PDF, click search and PDF. I don't know if this syntax is correct. And okay, tag. Uh, let's see here, PDF again. Let's see, search, and yes, searching now. And okay, it's here. So let's see here another PDF. If you'd like to see more deeply, you can download all those samples and PE. And oh man, take a look at this, Filipi. It's me, right, guys? You can click here if you'd like to download my not my malware. Actually, it's a malware that I will explain during this conversation, during this presentations, right? So when I uploaded this malware inside of this platform, I lived in Poland in that time, but now I'm living and I'm talking from Brazil. And okay, you can download this and you can make your testings during this workshop, right? So let's return my virtual machine here. Let me list all those samples that I have here inside of my machine. Then there's my machine. Oh my goodness, that I have inside of my virtual machine. And I have here the Amazon Doc, docx, bill, doc PDF, invoice doc PDF, Linux without extension, PDF. It's a directory, it's a folder, and red pill doc so probably a different. It's another code to make if you're using GCC to create an ELF file, and resume PDF and sample PDF. Here a folder with Win. It's a PA portable inside of this. Let's check here. So okay, let's understand what the first step that I can execute themselves here in my environment, and maybe I am using the file because it's a good tool or good command to execute, right? So let's see Amazon. First of all, let's see what happened here. I can identify the Microsoft Word 2007 plus, right? And another is a file, an Amazon docx. Yes, it is. Okay. Okay, it's obviously maybe. And let's see another Bill. My friend Bill. Let's see here, my friend Bill. I like this guy. Bill, it's a PDF document. Perfect. So let's see here another invoice.pdf file. And maybe you are asking you about, so I need to execute this command in all those files. Yes, this is the identification step. Do you remember? I need to understand what it is, or what is exactly the binary, right? So let's see again, file, let's see Linux doc text. It's a text. Oops, in this case, it's not a text. Take a look at this. It's a ELF, it's a executable, right? So it's different. But take a look at this. Here is the extension. In this case, it's doctest, but it's not. This case is different. It's elf. Take a look at this. It's very interesting here because here it's the base. I need to understand how this command works, how this file works. And before I execute any whatever command I can execute in this virtual machine or in my environment, I need to understand how this exactly works. So I can set, for example, man file. Let me looking inside of this command man file, how this works exactly. And oops, let's see here. Okay, so man file, it's what it is. This tools actually determine a file type. Take a look at this. Then of course, maybe you understand, you know about that, but you need to understand how this exactly works. So the manual page document verse 5.39 on a file command. Okay, here's some flags or commands that you can set when you execute this file. And okay, so why you are show us this, Filipi? This is a good question, because here we have some interesting information. The magic tests are used to check for files with data in particular fixed formats. So perfect. So these tools present us the exactly different, or not different, but exactly particular fixed formats, right? So the canonical example, okay, of this a binary executable compiled program. Do you remember about that thread? It's a software, but when you have some software, we have a software compiled, right? It means changing this program to a compiled program. Perfect. So our A.H file was format is defined in a elf.h. So it means here maybe you have interesting information here. So let's see here. Let me copy elf.h to understand more about this information. Let me open another split vertically. Okay, let me open here and let me find this. Not find, locate, sorry. Well, I can use find too, but I prefer using, let me pass here. Okay, in the beginning here, user include. Let me check this important thing here, because here in the explanation of the, do you remember, in the man of the file, we have here the good explanation about this extensions. Take a look this here about the here whose format is defined. So here in this file, maybe I have some format defined, but what kind of, maybe it's a elf, because the material, the explanation, it's about elf. Let's check here. Not ma, it's I use nano, you know, to read. And take a look what I am seeing here in this moment. In this file, take a look at this. User include dash usr dot include dot elf dot h. Oh, this file defined the standard elf type. Take a look at this. Of course, this conversation, this workshop is related to a PDF. But when you talk about the malwares, you need to understand about the elf. You know, you need to understand about the PE, portable executable. You need to understand about the different docs, like doc or an XLS, PowerPoint, whatever. And of course the PDF. So here we have a good example when you read the manual. But yeah, Felipe, I don't like to read the manual. I know, maybe I don't like to, but it's very important. Why? Because here you have a types and a structure and macros, right? So let's see. Behind here, let's move. Here you have the structure of the bytes, so 16 bytes, quantity, about the elf and a half, and a word, and X word. Maybe all those explanations, it's very cool for another talk, but it's okay because we don't have a time to explain all those details now. And here the elf file header, this appears at the start of every elf file. Take a look at this. This is the elf file header, one of this part of the elf structure. But Felipe, this conversation, it's about ELF. It's about PDF. No worries, just to understand something about the man, right? So the first idea when you talk about the header, you have this array. This in the first array we have this e-identity. When you have this array and a 16 bytes, do you remember? Take a look at the structure. The first, you have 16 bytes in this structure, right? So this is the e-identity structure in the header of what information do you have in the e-identity structure. You have a magic number and others information, but what that means, magic number, Filipi? Take a look at this. 1 second, I will explain more about the magic number, but you have here others information. So okay, let's return our man, because I didn't finish the here. Okay, let's continue the explanation. Possible as exec.h in the standard included directory. Okay, this file, these files has a what? A magic number. What it is exactly? Storage in a particular place near the beginning of the file that tells the Unix operation system that the file is a binary executable. And each of the several types theorem. The concept of magic has been applied by extension to data files. It means you have a magic number in all those files in a particular place in the beginning, right? So it means you always have the magic number. So it means all those files has a magic number. Filipi, I already know about that, so no worries. But probably we have some people now watching this video. People didn't know. No worries, but every people now know now, right? So take a look at this. The information is identifying this here. The identification, this file is ready from what? etc/magic and the compiled magic file and user share misc /magic doc mgc. It means you have all those informations compiled here in your system operations, right? But I need you, and I would like to explain more details about that, right? About this kind of concept. So let me close here again. Let me close here this. Okay. Is it okay? And here, take a look at this. I download this, the real file code, to understand more deeply about this simple code, the simple command, the simple base, right? So let's see here, cd file and magic. It's a magic. I don't remember. So let's see here. It's okay, magic, magic, magdir. Take a look at this, magdir. And what I have here. So take a look at this. I have all those magic numbers for many different files, like a PDF here. I have from VMware, or I have here another from, let's see, another ELF here. Here, take a look at this, and Windows. We have here Windows too. Let's see, where is the Windows here? It's Windows. Take a look at this, and WebAssembly, and we have Python. Where is Python here? Take a look at this. It's here, Python. I don't know. I lost Python. My Python. Anyway, we have Python here, but I don't know exactly. Here, it's Python. Okay, so let's see. JavaScript, cut JavaScript. Inside of this, it's a database of these many different magic numbers. So as you can see here, you have some rules to understand when the file command we will identify, what is exactly that file or this file, right? So let's see here. This is when you have the beginning. Do you remember in the beginning of the particular place in the beginning? Do you remember the explanation here? When you have this information in the beginning, you have what? A Node.js script executable, right? So let's see other, and maybe a Python here. Oh, maybe Python, we have a different rules, many rules, by the way. Take a look at this. And there's some reject some strings here. Take a look at this. Okay. And the same case here. Take a look at this, a Python script. Perfect. Okay. Let me manipulate something. Let me create here nano malware, very creative text. Perfect. And malware is malicious. Let's save here. And okay, yes, save. And okay, I will create this sample, right? So it's a text. Take a look at this. I execute the file command, and the tools performed in this file, and the file understand how this magic numbers work. So let me manipulate this file now. So first of all, let me put, for example, let me return here. And okay, no. Let me see about the JavaScript, because I really don't remember. Oh, okay, it's a bin, just a simple. Let me copy here, and I completely forgot bin/node. It's very simple, but I forgot. Sorry for that. Let me manipulate now. Let me paste here slash, bin bash, actually, not bin bash, bin node, actually. Let me save here, and I click yes, and save here, and again, file malware. Take a look at this. It's not a, take a look at this. It's not a text more. It's a Node.js, And if I try to read here, it's but it's not exactly JavaScript, because the extension is different. Do you remember when I execute this file command in another text, it was a elf file? Do you remember? So take a look at this. Let me manipulate again. File. No, it's a nano. Okay. I will put here just a simple command here. Let me put here, and let me save. And yes, what happened here? File malware. Ooh, it's a Python. Take a look at this, because this is do you remember what the name? It's a magic number, because I'm manipulating the magic number here, right? Okay, so let me do another last manipulation. Malware, malware.py, no, not text. Okay, no, it's not a, I need to put the correct name. It's different here. Okay, now it's okay. Perfect. Let me put here what. Let me put in percent PDF. One doc, no, one doc 46. Let me save here what happened, because I don't know how the file works in this case. Let's see here. Cat malware. I have here percent PDF, and I have here from a Python script, and here the text. So let's see what works here. File, malware, doc text. It is a PDF document. Take a look at this. Why? Because if you see a PDF here, take a look at this, the string in the beginning, exactly a string that I wrote, right? So why I explain all those things to you? Because you need to understand about those bases. It's very, very important, right? So we need to understand how this tools works. It's not a simple command, right? So another simple example, let me return here root, and malware, and yes. Okay, so let's see here. I have different files, Linux files here. Linux, okay. So let's see, for example, file Linux 32, okay, Linux 64, and take a look at this. If I execute this xd, Let me check here in XD or XD. Okay, XD dash N32 and the Linux 32. Take a look at this. I have here the hexadecimal information, right? And here I have what? I have string here, right? So let me put here another thing like a not 32 bytes. I will put all those. Not let me put in the pipe last here because I'm using the terminator here, and you know, I don't have a good buffer to show in the. Let me pipe less. Okay, so take a look at this. I have here all those strings here, and take a look at this. Okay, not different informations here, just a strings, right? So let me return here, and I will explain one thing about that. I have here the string in the beginning, right? If you're using here the strings, yes, dash A, it means all, right? And I put here the Linux 32 5 less. Take a look what happened. So I should see this information, right? Because it says a string, right? So when you click enter, take a look this where the place start, right? So I can't see the elf information, right? Take a look this. Let me explain another thing using in a different way. So let me go to a Windows folder. I have here Windows file. I have a sample and whiz. Oh, cool, very cool. Sample. It's this is a P. It's a P. Let me check here. Whiz. It's another PE. Okay. Let me put here an XD and again lex nomino, sorry, and a dash one port and put here the whiz. Okay. No XD no X. Okay. Sorry. Oh my goodness. Okay. Perfect. Take a look at this. In the beginning of the file, we have the MZ information. It means this is the one of this magic number of the PE, right? And here we have another string. So let me put again, but no informations about the limitations of the bytes. And I will put pipe last here because I would like to see many strings here. So MZ, and this program cannot be run in DOS mode and wherever. Here the PE signature, it's here, right? And let's see, oh, here the session, doc text, another session or data, right? So usually it's not so related read on, it's or all data. It's data, it's another session, each session or SRC, usually related to an image or, you know, or something like that, and many other strings here. But if you execute here the strings, take a look this strings.all with, so what should be the first letter, the first string MZ, right? But doesn't happen. Why? It's a good question. But you need to understand about the what man of the string. Oh my goodness, I don't like to read them, Filipi. It's a totally bullshit. It's not a bullshit, guys. You need to understand about that, right? So strings what? Print the sequence of the printable characters in files, right? So for each file given, strings prints the printable characters sequence that are at least what? At least 4 characters long. Because of this, don't show or don't appears the MZ because it's 2 characters, and ELF because it's 3 characters. That is the key, right? So I need to understand those ways. I just like to execute some or perform some commands or using some tools. but I know maybe it's useful, but it's useless when you don't know about the basis, right? So because of this, we need to understand about the base. So let me return about my presentations here. And when you talk about the PDF, is different. You need to understand about the structure, because the structure, it's almost different. Not almost, it's a similar, of course, but maybe it's maybe similar or not. But in general, PDF has 4 parts, right? First of all, it's a header. It's almost the same when you have another different files. And you have a body. It's a different because you have many information content inside of this body. You have a cross-reference table, and you have a trailer in the end of the file, right? So it means you can see in this way. In the beginning, you can see the header. Usually, you can see the version of the number. You see the body with the pages, image, font, and bookmark and forms object, because PDF, it means it's not a text, it's a text file, but with many color or maybe good images. I'm joking, but you have here the interesting informations. Cross-reference table, it's very interesting because you have allocations of the objects within the file for a random access, right? So location of the certain objects within the body and locations of the cross-reference table in the file. It means all those cross-reference table, is referenced in another object. So for example, let's suppose you have 20 objects inside. So many of these objects, it is referenced themselves, right? In this way, right? So I will explain more in a demo now. So not here. Okay. So let me explain about that. So I will show you. I have a folder here. I have a sample here. I have a file that I didn't have if this file is malicious or not. So I will execute this first tool, PDF ID, provided by DDA Steven, by the way. So here, as you can see, the header, %PDF, and you have object 15, right? You have a streaming 2, and you have a cross-reference table. And take a look, this is a very interesting information here, because usually these tools, probably when DDA Steven created this tool, probably he understood about the structure of the PDF. Makes sense for you? And then after that, he can create these tools to scan some information inside of the PDF, right? So these tools execute some scanning inside of the PDF, and they can find, for example, the name of the object. If the PDF has some string, usually when the attacker like to put some malicious software, they use the streaming to put some malicious things inside of the string, right? Okay, so these tools this tool got to find information inside the PDF, right? And take a look this dash page, dash script encrypt, dash slash, not dash slash, right? So slash object string, JavaScript, JS, JavaScript, AA, open actions, and another information here. So when you see this slash, it means that all those informations are inside of this main information here, right? So we don't have to see more about the main, okay, of the PDF ID, but you can read. We need to read after this workshop, these conversations, right? So let's continue to see the video. Take a look at this. We have 5 JavaScript inside of this PDF. Makes sense to you? And here we have another interesting information. Open action. What do you mean, Filipi, open action inside of PDF? It's very, very important informations. And take a T. And when you have some open action inside of PDF, it means that the user just needs to download the file, right? And after that, when the file is downloaded in your environment, the PDF can execute themselves inside of your environment, because they have this open action, right? this action defining inside of the file, right? Within the file. Perfect. So when you will analyze some PDF and you see some open action or AA, it's mean the same meaning, right? So the PDF the user just need to download the file inside of the victim machine, and after that the PDF will execute themselves, right? So okay, let's continue to analyze. So after that, knowing this information, I execute another command, PDF-parser. It's another tool provided by DDA Steven. I execute this with --run. It means the idea here is to collect all those ran informations inside of this PDF. Okay, perfect. Let me understand about this results. So here the header, take a look this, and after that I have object 1, and take a look this. Object 1 referring what? Referring object 2, object 3, object 4, object 5, 6, and 7. But in the beginning, when I started to analyze this file, we had a 15. Do you remember? So, but I just can see here 7, but I have 15. Don't forget this number, right? So, and I have here in object 1 reference to the JavaScript, and take a look this JavaScript, and I have here open action. Oops, take a look this interesting thing. I have an open action, and the execute this function inside of this virtual machine. Take a look what action this action performing inside the virtual machine is some action related to what? Related to some JavaScript, right? So we can see, you can understand this. Okay, so let's continue to analyze. But I need to I don't understand the code, but I know that is JavaScript because I am seeing here. So okay, let me return here, sorry. Okay, so I have here the object 2, 3, and take a look this here, and 4. 4, I have reference object 8 and object 9, guys. Okay, so now I have 8 and 9 object, right? So we need to see more deeply. Take a look this, oops, object 7. Take a look what appears here, the object 10. But inside of the Ethan, the object 10, we have a JavaScript. So I have the first JavaScript, not a first, but I have JavaScript inside of object 10. Perfect. So let's continue to see here. Oops, object 9. I have a reference to object 4, right? Because object 4 reference object 9. Perfect. But have here another object 11. Do you remember in the explanation of the structure? All those objects are referenced in themselves, right? So let's continue here. The object 10. Do you remember we have a JavaScript? Okay, and I have JavaScript, but I have another referencing, object 12. So I need to see there, but take a look this a different information. In object 11, we have a what? We have a not reference, but I have what information we have here. Contains a string. It means I have here something inside of this string, but I don't know what this means in this case. But I need to investigate, right? So and when I have another interesting information, flat decode means I need to decode this information inside of this string. But I have here the left. Do you remember the left is it means it's related to a size, right? So but the size is at 36. It's not too much. It's bigger. It's not bigger. It's more very very small. But have here an object 12. Do you remember? But another reference. Oh my goodness, it's 13. Okay. But here, guys, take a look at this. In object 13, I have an streaming flat decode, but take a look, this is the sizing. It's too big. So I need to see more deeply inside of this. Maybe here I have some suspicions. I have object 14 and 15. Okay, so next steps to see what? The 13 object, because I have here the stream, right? A big stream. And I will execute this PDF TK because you can use to compress further PDF inside, but I will use to another thing, to uncompress, because if I can use the compress, I can uncompress. The idea here is to uncompress all those informations inside of this PDF. So I will execute this output. In this output is dump text, and take a look what I can find here. Wow, pretty cool. Take a look at this. streaming and the size. I uncompress the code, and I have here the first technique. I found here the JavaScript obfuscated. So I need to what? This obfuscate this code to try and understand more deeply what this code means exactly in my environment, or in this case in the victim machine, right? So next step, I will copy this, and I called payload.html. Why? Because do you remember I'm talking to JavaScript? So sometimes the JavaScript is related to a web application. So IMC, I saw some evil parameters, and I changing this parameter to try watch this information in some document right in a browser, right? And if you see here, take a look, the different colors, by the way, probably I have something here inside. And after that, I can investigate more of that. But as you can see here, the tool already identifies some different colors here. So I am putting the document right because I will write this information in a web browser, and take a look what happened. I save here the payload.html, right? Perfect. And I will give the permission to execute themselves in the web browser, and I will open this in okay, everything it works. Wow, take a look. This is what I am found. A payload. You know what that means? It's very simple. Here we have a package responsible to downloading the victim machine, and this package and this part of this code is responsible to call back to the command and controller from the attacker. You see? So inside of this JavaScript obfuscated, I found a payload responsible to call to the CNC from the attacker. You see? So, but here, if you see, yeah, maybe you need to understand more about that. I see some percent here, and a very, common behavior, but it means maybe makes sense to investigate more about that, right? So the next step that I did in this, or that I am doing, oh my goodness, I have some problem with the verb, But the next step is I will copy this code, because I will try to continue to investigate, because I am see the behavior. So I'm setting this nano again, and I will put I put the real payload, right? And I pass this, I save the folder, right? And after that, take a look what I did. I set this the set, because I am cut this percent, and then my idea is to just see this real information here. Take a look, this simple encode, because here we have another technique, the encode technique. Do you remember? You can use different encodings to, like, let me, in this case I will use in Unicode, based in 2 bytes, it's different. But you can use an basic, base 64, baby 16, baby 32, encrypting. The encrypt you can use in different encoding. In this case, the attacker used an older technique. It's encoded based on EC2, based on Unicode. It means, and it's explained, slow, because it's oldest. It's older. It's older, this kind of technique, because it's based on EC2. EC2 what? Based in Unicode. It's not in ASCII, right? It's different in based on Unicode, because it's 2 bytes. ASCII, it's a 1 byte, right? So here I have the Unicode. Okay, but maybe you are asking, if you are asking, for example, Filipi, you just show us about the Linux platform, but I like to work with a more analysis with a Windows environment. In other words, I have another thing to you. I use it in this case, Mozilla by Bobby. It's a very cool platform. I passed here the same code. Take a look at this, the same percent, and I cut this percent of this information. Take a look at this. And I generate what? I generate a X file doc binary. because my idea here is to generate this binary, because do you remember the encode technique using the EC2 by Unicode, right? So I generate in this case using this platform in Mozilla the X file binary, and in the end, what I did, I used short search from the dear Stevens again to try and find what inside of this file X file binary, if I found some HTTP request, and take a look this what I found here, the server from the attacker, because this code, it is using this Unicode, right? So this command controller, it was in Estonia in that time, right? So I found the command controller for the attack, right? So if you have now question, guys, I am open to talk to you. But just to finish my presentations here, our conversation during this workshop, the point here is you need to understand about those basics that I explained during this conversation and during this workshop. And another point here, take a look. I found the file, PDF file. Inside this PDF it has a JavaScript. Do you remember? This JavaScript, it was using the obfuscation techniques. Do you remember? Inside of this PDF, we had the open action. It means just the user needs to download the file, and after that, this open action will execute this JavaScript that is obfuscated. Inside of this JavaScript, we found the payload responsible to connect to the CNC, right? The callback to the virtual machine from the CNC, the command and controller, using what? Using a Unicode technique to encode the informations of the IPs, or the IP from the attacker. It was in Estonia, Europe, right? So, guys, thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for having me this event. And again, here my contact on social media. So if you have any question, please let me know. And keep in hacky. And if you need something, count everything on me. Not everything, actually. You can count on me always.